All right, welcome everybody to another GoDaddy Pro meetup. This month we are talking about mindfulness at work, mindfulness in business, and we started last week with Courtney Robertson joining me. If you missed that, please do make sure that you go back to events.godaddy.com and take a look at that. The replay is up there now for you to watch. But this week I have the extreme pleasure of having someone join us to talk about the 5 unbelievable benefits of mindful entrepreneurship. And she also happens to be here from Florida as well with me. Welcome, Nicki. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you doing?
Awesome. Nicki is the founder and marketing therapist. I love that title, by the way, for Simple Sprout Studio. And I'm going to mostly get out of the way here so that she can fill you in about these benefits. This is being recorded, so if you have to jump out at any point, those of you with us here in the event, that's okay. We're recording this and it'll be posted within the next day or two. So come back to the page where you registered and the video will be there. And then if you're joining us here in the event as well, we do have a chat going on the side. I believe that Nicki will have some time at the end for us to take a look at some questions. So feel free to toss those questions into the chat. There's a Q&A tab, or just write in the chat is fine. I'll be hanging out in the chat while Nicki is talking, and I'll come back on afterwards, and we'll take a look at those questions. So without any further delay, Nicki, I'm going to get out of the way and let you share your slides.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the intro, Marcus. I appreciate that. And I think, fingers crossed, I got this full screen for us. Let's see. Nope, that's the wrong one.
It's a black hole of screen sharing.
Yes. Okay. Is that one going to do it? Nope. It's going to shrink on me. Well, I apologize because this is teeny tiny for you, but I do have the slides for you. So at the very end, I'm going to share the slides so you don't necessarily have to, take diligent notes as we go through unless you'd like to. I will have the slides for you at the end, and I do apologize again that this is teeny tiny on your screen. So hopefully you can zoom in or make it bigger somehow. So today we're going to be talking about 5 unbelievable benefits of mindful entrepreneurship, and basically why mindfulness has an important place in business, and it's not just for the yoga mat. So if you sign up for that, you are in the right place, and I'm happy to have you here. And basically, if you are an entrepreneur at all, you are in the right place. Basically, this is for anybody from a wannabe entrepreneur. So you've been wanting to start your own business and you want to go about it in the right way, or you're a new entrepreneur, so you're just getting there and you want to feel less overwhelmed and you know there's a better way to go about business. Or you might be a pro entrepreneur and you've been around the block a couple of times, but now it's time to think smarter and not harder, and you want to see what this mindfulness thing is all about and how it can help you in your business. So today you're going to learn why mindfulness has a place in business and why it's not just for the yoga mat and it's not just for meditation. It has a place in business as well. And you're going to learn 5 unbelievable benefits of mindfulness. And I bet you didn't know that how powerful mindfulness could be in business, but you're going to learn all about that today. And throughout today's talk, I'm going to infuse ways to implement mindfulness in your everyday business life. So hopefully it will help you along the way. And really my goal today is to give you at least one tip that you can walk away with. I would say over the past 2.5 years, and I'll get into this more in a second, and for the past 2.5 years, I've really been delving more into this with my current work-life balance. And I have learned a lot through self-development, and I read a ton of self-development books and business books, and I included a ton of different tips from lots of different ways of thought today. So I'm hoping that you'll walk away with at least one tip that will help you. If not, you'll walk away with 20 tips at least. So let's take a step back for just a second and talk about what mindfulness is, because I don't think it needs to be this big, scary topic of, reaching this sort of Zen mindful, you're on top of a mountain meditating sort of a space. Mindfulness can simply be, as the dictionary defines it, the quality or state of being conscious or aware of something. So really what we're doing when we infuse mindfulness into business, I think, is we're just being more aware of what we're doing, what we're putting out there, and being more aware of how we're impacting the world and impacting the world with our business, as well as impacting our own lives too. Because I think what we all truly want is a business that we love and a life that we love, right? And I think that mindfulness is a wonderful way to go about that. So hello, I'm Nicki. It's lovely to meet you all. This is sort of my more formal introduction. I'm a super passionate entrepreneur who loves helping fellow female entrepreneurs help their businesses online. And for the past 13 years, I've helped hundreds of entrepreneurs use search engine optimization and copywriting to be found by their ideal audience. And really what I say is I write copy that makes Google and your clients happy. So that's what I do. But like many of you, I wear lots and lots of hats. I'm also a mom, a wife, a writer, a creative, a fitness junkie, a journaler, and an internal optimist. And so I'm looking forward to hearing more about the hats that you all wear too. But for today's sake, this is what really matters, I think. First of all, I'm just going to be totally transparent with you guys because I think that's why we're all here, right? We're here to learn and be transparent with each other. I'm not sitting up here on my high horse as far as like I'm a mindful guru and I know everything that there is to know about this. Absolutely not. I'm still learning. Like I've said, I've been really on this path probably for the past 2.5 years. And I'm learning new things every day. I'm trying these tips. Some days they work, some days they don't. And so I think it's just all a matter of learning constantly and putting into practice what works for you, right? So first things first, I am an extremely pressure prompted person. When I took the Myers-Briggs test, I've taken it a few times in my life, but every time I take it, I'm as pressure prompted as you can get, which means I like to do things at the last minute. And I have a feeling there's more of you out here because many creative entrepreneurs that I meet are very pressure prompted. And that basically means I'm a very high functioning procrastinator. Anybody a high functioning procrastinator in here? I'd love to hear about it. So the reason I share that is because mindfulness for procrastinating, I think, has a huge place, right? Because just being aware of the fact that we're procrastinating, for me, and owning it and using it as a way to work with my business rather than against it has been huge for me. And I'm going to talk about lots of different ways that you can use your procrastination actually to help you and not to hurt you anymore today. I'm also a mompreneur. So 2.5 years ago, like I keep mentioning, I became a mom. I have a 2.5-year-old son, and my husband and I decided that since I already worked for myself from home, that I'm going to try to take care of him and work from home. So I transitioned from working full-time essentially to working even more full-time by running my business and taking care of my son. And it essentially forced me to become more mindful. And what I found was instead of I went from about 40 hours, 50, 60 hours a week to about 20. And while I thought originally that was going to mean I was working part-time, I've actually found that I was able to take that full-time schedule, make it part-time, work just as much, or produce just as much, I should say, and actually make more money, which is really cool. So I think as a part of this mindful journey, a lot of us can realize that the time we're taking to work can actually be scrunched down and we can actually have more free time for all the stuff that we want to do in life and with our families and with the people we love. So that's a big driver for me as far as this mindfulness talk. And last but not least, I'm a multi-passionate creative. And so I'm guessing, like a lot of you, I am constantly fighting against that need to be, or the want to be distracted by all these creative projects. Like I said, I'm a writer at heart. I'm also a little bit of an artist. So I like to be creative. I like to make new things. And so I'm constantly getting these hits of a new book idea or a new freebie that I want to give away or all sorts of stuff. And so I'm constantly having these pings of creativity when I have deadlines that I need to also get done. So how do you balance that? That's also a lot of what we'll be talking about today. So I would be remiss if I didn't also just mention my business very quickly. Like Marcus mentioned, it's called Simple Sprout Studio. I'm right out of St. Augustine, Florida. So hello, my Floridians. I saw a lot of people in the chat are also in Florida, which is awesome. And we specialize in search engine optimization, SEO copywriting, and copy editing, as well as ongoing blogging and ongoing SEO. So really, my goal for clients is to make SEO, copy, and everything it entails super simple. And I think that that also lends its hand to mindfulness, right? Is because a lot of things we do in business, we tend to overcomplicate. And I think we can simplify things more often than not and simply see them for how they are. So that's what I try to do in my business. Speaking of creating free things and creation in general, I love creating free things and giving them away. And so please stick around because I've got actually 2 freebies for you today that I think you'll really enjoy because you're all here for a mindfulness chat. And I will share those at the end. So stick around. Okay. So I just want to take a second here to kind of take a cumulative deep breath and kind of settle into this a little bit. And I want everyone to just take a second and think about how mindful are you being in your business as of right now? Many of us are pretty mindful, maybe on a day-to-day basis, as far as being healthy, making healthy choices, with food or exercise, getting enough sleep, things like that. Mindful about spending quality time with family and being in that time, fully present, maybe things like that. But how mindful are you being right now in your business? I would love to hear about anybody if you want to share, or you just want to take a second and think to yourself as far as how mindful are you being? How aware are you of what's going on in your business day to day? Because, and I'm going to share a couple of quotes as we go through today that I think are inspiring and lend a good hand to this topic. Where energy goes, or I'm sorry, where focus goes, energy flows. And it's true, right? If you are the type of person that constantly sees the worst in things and think that you're failing constantly, or you're just not where you want to be in your life right now, you are going to see examples of that everywhere you look, because that's where your focus is, right? Think of it. What do you think of often, and what are you constantly picking up on in your everyday life? My guess is they're synonymous, right? The things you're thinking about are also the things you're noticing, whether it's in business or in life. So in our mindfulness talk today, like I said, we're going to talk about 5 unbelievable benefits of mindfulness, and they are: focus on what matters, increase your impact, your free time, your productivity, and your alignment. So those are the 5 benefits. So we're going to dive in right now with focus. So I want you to think of focus. Like I said, where your focus goes, your energy flows, right? So we're going to talk about focusing on what matters more and focusing less on what doesn't matter. By becoming more efficient, moving the needle in your business, and by making a big impact, focus can do wonders. So I want to start us off today with an exercise. I did this earlier this year, and it did wonders for me as far as helping me focus more on the things that matter in my business and getting rid of the stuff that just was not working well. So first, what I want you to do, and I would suggest doing this today if you can, or definitely this week, because if you wait till next week, it will not get done. So carve out 20, 30 minutes and get this done. First, I want you to start by making a list of all the services that you offer as a business, all your service offerings. So for me, earlier this year, that looked like SEO, copywriting, website design, and development. So I had those services as well. Then I want you to assign an income you can do the past year, you can do the past 6 months, pick a chunk of time. A year is a good chunk, or maybe it's from January until now, the calendar year of 2021 so far, and assign the income that you've made for each of those services. Then what I want you to do is note the percentage that income is of the total for each service. So you're going to say, okay, SEO gave me 75% of my income this year, and website development and design was 10%. Actually, in my case, it was 6%. So that was what I walked away with, was I'm only making 6% of my income or my business's income. You can look at it both ways depending on what works for you. Um, I'm only making 6% of my income on these websites, on website design and development. Then I want you to make an additional column and assign how much of your time goes to that service, and also how much energy and joy. Because at the end of the day, we want to love what we do, right? I don't think there's a single person out there that doesn't want to love what they do. We spend so much time in our businesses and in our jobs. We might as well love them, right? At least most of the time. So I want you to think about how much time and joy and energy goes into it. So for me, for example, when I looked at those numbers and I saw only 6% of my business was coming from web design and development services, so creating websites, and mind you, I project manage those projects. I'm not a designer and developer. So I'm project managing these projects that are only bringing in 6% of my income. And when I looked at those numbers, and then I thought, I put a ton of energy into these. I put everything I've got. I offer to what I believe is a really high level of service for these. And as a result, on an hourly basis, I'm not making that much money when I looked at the numbers. And that's okay. But what I also, as I kind of ruminated on this, what I also discovered was I also wasn't getting a lot of joy out of it. I was finding that every time I, went to update a client, though I love the client and my clients are wonderful, I just wasn't getting as much joy out of it as I was with my SEO and copywriting that I fully owned and created. And so I decided just last month, actually, I'm all done with that. I'm going to get rid of that service because it's not bringing me joy. It's sucking all my energy. It takes a ton of my time and it's not giving me a lot of income. So why do I keep doing it? And it's amazing that once you start breaking these things down and really looking at them, that it's really easy to continue to do the same things over and over and over without even realizing it. Because I'd always offered these services, so why not continue? So I think you might come up with some similar things, at least even just a small service offering that's just not working for you. So then what you can do, the next step from there, is you can start to reassess where your goals truly lie, right? So one of the biggest tips I want you to get from today is getting a really clear focus on a singular, or maybe two to three tops goals that you have for yourself and your business. And that can be a goal for the entire year. That can be a goal for the day, however you want to look at it. Because the reality is, many of us have trained our brains actually to multitask. And I'm definitely one of them. I'm raising my hand up real high here, especially as a mompreneur. I'm trying to manage my business and my son and my house and my relationships. There's a lot of things in the air. But what has become the difficulty with doing that is that we've trained our brains to multitask. So now, and tell me if you've ever experienced this, now I have a hard time not having 10 different browser windows open, not having 1,000 browser windows open, right? And my phone going off, and my son needing something, and, white noise in the background with music or whatever it is. And so I think part of this mindfulness adventure journey needs to be, we need to have a singular focus, have just the one browser window open, right? When it comes to sort of your ultimate goals, as far as what you want to accomplish, make sure that it's a singular, clear goal that you can focus all of your attention to, and make sure it's measurable and achievable. So what I mean by that is, let's say your big goal, you sit down and you say, okay, I'm going to put together this goal. It's going to be my ultimate focus. You say, I want to bring in $250,000 to my business this year. That's attainable because you're already at, let's say, 100, 150,000. 250 isn't that far away, so that's attainable. If you were to sit down and say, I want to make $2 million this year, and you're only at like 150, you might need to reassess that, right? And it's also measurable, right? Because it's a number. You can look at your accounting at the end of the year and you can see how much you've made. It's also easy to keep track of that throughout the year. If that's your annual goal, you can keep track every quarter or every month, however you want to do it. And so it's achievable and measurable. So whatever goal you put together, make sure it's that. Secondly, from this exercise, what we've learned is how to lose all the unnecessary tasks. All that junk that we're doing that's not bringing us joy, it's sucking up our time, and it's not making an income. We've determined that those tasks can go, right? Or those projects or that client or whatever it is that's holding you back, that can go. The other thing that comes into play here is starting to say no to things. And I know that's really difficult for a lot of people, especially as entrepreneurs, right? Especially when you're starting out, you want to take on all those jobs, all those projects. But this is your opportunity to say no to the ones that don't fit and yes to the ones that do. Because the reality is, the more we bog down our time with the wrong type of project or client or task, whatever it is, the less time we have to do the stuff we want to do, right? And also stop doing the tasks that don't bring income or joy. Now, here's something I want to note when I'm talking about this. There are certainly things that you do, even in business, that don't have an income and bring you joy. Like if it's really important to you to offer a scholarship program for your program that you offer and give it away for free to 10 people this year, or if it's really important to volunteer as an organization, do those things because they bring you joy, incredible value, and huge impact, right? And there's sometimes going to be situations where you need the income, but it doesn't bring you so much joy. So you need to weigh those things, right? And then last but not least, outsource necessary but unfulfilling tasks. Okay, so whether you have employees or a freelancer currently, or whether you need to hire someone on, I highly recommend it. I definitely was one that I kept my business very close to my chest. It's my baby, my second baby, right? But I hired a virtual assistant this year, and it has been life-changing because I give her all the stuff that I don't necessarily have to do, but it needs to get done. She gets it done for me, and then I can focus on all the stuff that only I can do, which is super valuable, right? And I have all this, not all this extra time, but I have more extra time to focus on what's valuable to me and to my business and can really move the needle for my business. So here, those were sort of getting into tips, but here's some more concrete tips. And again, I just want you to walk away today with at least one tip that you can really focus on and make a big impact in your life and become more mindful. A couple of these are my own. A couple of these are from references or sources that I've gathered over the years. So the first one is Eat That Frog. And I'm sure many of you have read this book. It's by Brian Tracy, I want to say. I'm not sure if I'm right on the last name, so somebody let me know. If you haven't read Eat That Frog, I do highly recommend it, especially if you're into this mindful space. So eating the frog is basically accomplishing that biggest, hairiest, scariest task first thing in the morning. You want to eat the frog. You want to get that checked off your list. That's your priority. And once it's done, oh, the joy and the proud feeling of accomplishment you're going to feel, it's going to push you through the rest of the day, and you're going to just have sort of a productive snowball going after that, right? Second, look at it once. This one was huge for me. If you are the type like me where you look at your email a lot and you're constantly looking at the same emails over and over, the same tasks on your to-do list or whatever the case may be, try not to look at something until you're ready to do it. So for me, what that looks like is I keep my inbox full of all my to-do items or, obviously incoming emails. I will not look at them now until I have a chance to do them. I might glance at them just to know if it's an emergency situation or if it can wait. But it has been huge because the amount of time we spend thinking about tasks in our brain, and we're just spinning, right? And thinking about all the stuff that we have to do instead of not thinking about it until it's time to do it, looking at it once, accomplishing it, and done. If I could track the time that I took thinking about something before I actually did it. I think I put together a graphic one time after I did some research on this, and it was something like 95% of the time we're thinking about it. So that's like, let's say 95 minutes, and then it takes actually 5 minutes or 5% of the time to actually accomplish the task. So all that time is spent 100 minutes, let's say, or spent thinking about it. It takes 5 minutes. It's crazy, but we do it. Thirdly, start before you're ready. I know this is a big, big one for entrepreneurs because the reality is you're never going to be ready. You're never going to feel completely ready to start the business or launch the product or the service or call that client that, for that sales call that you're feeling really nervous about. You're not going to feel completely ready. So just go, just start. And you're going to feel so much better once you start and get it checked off your list. And finally, let's all make the commitment here and now to stop trying to be perfect. I am definitely one that struggles with this as a recovering perfectionist. It's an impossible standard to hold yourself against, and the reality is, it's another form of procrastination, really, because you want to get your products or your services or whatever it is in life to be perfect, and it's unfortunately never going to get there. So let's make the commitment together here today to commit to done is better than perfect. Absolutely give it your best, put everything you've got into it, and give it your all, but done is always better than perfect. I love this one. Don't become a wandering generality, be a meaningful specific. So now we're going to talk about making an impact and increasing your impact with mindfulness. Oh, yes. Kalia, I hope I'm saying that right. Recovering perfectionist. Yes, I love it. All right. So many of us, hopefully most of us in business, we have sort of this deeper meaning behind the work, right? Whether you are, blanking on the word, but you really enjoy giving back to the world. Somebody needs to throw this out to me because it's going to bother me. I'm blanking on it. Anyway, there's a deeper meaning behind philanthropist. Thank you, Marcus. Yes, exactly. You're philanthropic in your work. You like to give back and volunteer in the community. There's often a deeper why to why we're doing business. It's not just about the money. It's not just about the benefits usually. For me, it's my family and having that the ability to be home with my son, especially during this time in his life. And so mindfulness can really help us get there. So I want you to ask yourself these important questions. And again, try to do this week if you can. So number one, what are the most important tasks in your business that only you can do? And this is sort of offshooting off of that exercise that we did before, but really hone in on this because, and I do this constantly because like I said, I really struggle with this and giving a piece of my baby away. But really at the end of the day, what is it that you have to do that other people can't do? Because the second you start to scale your business in a way where you outsource the things you don't have to do, you can just grow and grow and grow and grow and be more and more successful and have more and more time to do all the stuff that you want to do. Secondly, what are the most important tasks that may not make money, but bring you a ton of joy? Because those are the things that you actually will have time to do once you outsource all the things that you don't have to do. So whether it's that you've always had a dream to write a book, or that you would just love to take your family on a European vacation because you've always wanted to go but have never had the time. What is it that won't make you money but will just bring you so much joy? And thirdly, are you making powerful and worthwhile connections in the world and with your clients? I notice this a lot when, not just with me, but a lot of people, entrepreneurs I've talked to, is that when we get really busy and really overloaded with work, we tend to stop making those powerful connections with our community because we're just so overwhelmed and we're not connected. So by being more mindful, how can you start making those deeper, richer connections with maybe less people, but deeper, more meaningful ones that are actually worthwhile? And I'm going to invite you, I'm never going to force you to do anything, but I will invite you to consider this because it's definitely made a big impact for me. I know in my business, getting rid of, like I said, the website design and development. How can you go deeper in your niche? So how can you connect more with a specific client or niche and ensure that you get more focused and actually end up making a deeper impact? This is sort of marketing 201, I guess you could say, as far as thinking of your ideal client, not just as a general population, but actually singular, very specific people. How can you do that in your business and actually end up making a bigger impact because you're going deep with a small community rather than general with a really broad community, and not necessarily keeping those return customers, because with a niche, you can actually go deeper and more powerful and, again, create those more enriched relationships. Oh, this one's good. Time is a created thing. To say, I don't have time is to say, I just don't want to, or I don't want to. And I think a lot of us end up sort of lying to ourselves and saying, I don't have the time. You hear that all the time, right? I don't have the time to do that. I don't have the time to do that. The reality is we make time to do the things we want to do. So let's make another commitment to ourselves and say, if you don't want to do something, just say it and it's okay. Because the reality is when we really want to binge watch a show, we make the time to do it. Or when we really, really want to go on that vacation, we make the time to do it. Or when we want to, I don't know, go have a great meal with our family, we make the time to do it, right? So time is another really super powerful thing that mindfulness gives you, but you have to be careful. So it will, mindfulness will certainly have you doing more in less time and give you more of that free time that you crave, but you have to be careful. And we'll talk about why in just a second. So now that you know what that exercise that we did at the beginning, you know what tasks you're getting rid of. You know the tasks that someone else is doing, you're outsourcing those, and you know the tasks that you'll continue to do. So you've kind of broken this up into three things. And hopefully that last bucket, the tasks that you'll continue to do, is really, really small now. So now you can explore and scale what you're doing even more, which is super powerful. So now you have all this time, you have less to do, and you have more free time. But you have to be careful, right? Because we all know that with more time, it's really easy to fill up those empty time slots. So you want to make sure you keep your time focused. And so this has been just mind blowing for me as a mompreneur. So now I've gone, and I'll just tell you guys, I work every day, Monday through Sunday. And I work usually about 2 to 4 hours a day, and that works the best for my family and I. And I keep times like now, it's nap time, and I keep that open for meetings. So you guys are my nap time meeting today. And yeah, that just ends up working best for me. And I found that going from having like the entire day before having my son, having the entire day really, because I would work, I don't know, 8 to 10 hours, and crunching that down to 2 to 4, I actually get, like I said, I get the same amount done. I produce the same amount in that shorter amount of time because I was just filling all that time with who knows what, right? I mean, think about what you've done today. I'm sure there have been moments where you've been doing things that you're not producing anything, and that's okay. It's totally normal. But when you start to be more mindful about your work and you're outsourcing and you're taking some of these steps, you'll find that you have more free time. So you have to be really careful with that free time and how you keep it focused. So schedule to your time wisely, and we'll talk more about that in just a second. And continue to say no to projects and tasks that don't fit. That needs to be an ongoing process, like we talked about. So if something doesn't fit with your goal and your focus, it's a no. Plain and simple. It can be a nice no, no thank you, but it's a no. So here are a couple of tips for better timing and really staying true to being mindful of that time. First things first, calendar blocking. If you're not doing calendar blocking right now, I highly recommend that you try it. Really what that boils down to is scheduling out practically every second of the day, or at least of your work days, to include anything and everything that needs to be accomplished. So what that can look like is literally go into your calendar. I like to use Google's calendar, and literally time blocking. Like in the morning, that's going to be focus time. So maybe the first couple of hours are focus time for whatever the main focus of your day is. So you can get that out of the way, eat that frog, right? And then there's lunch. And then the hour after lunch, maybe that's your email time. So you've waited all day. This is another tip that I didn't include in here, but I know that's a pretty popular productivity tip, is to wait to open up your email. So maybe the half hour, hour after lunch, that's your time to open up your email and read through and respond to emails. Then after that, you've got a block for content creation. You create blog posts or social media for your business, and then you so on and so forth. So you've literally blocked out every time. then you have to be very focused about it and stick to that calendar. That's the hard part. Secondly, set sensible deadlines. Now, if you're like me and like many entrepreneurs, you can set deadlines to whenever you want them to be, right? Huge benefit. It's wonderful. But time is filled like time is filled. If you have 5 days to finish a project, it takes 5 days. If you have 5 months to finish a project, it takes 5 months, right? So set sensible deadlines for you so that you're not going to be stressing, but that it will get done in a reasonable time. It's a no-brainer, but I think it needs to be said at the same time. Thirdly, take breaks. I think I first heard about this one from Brendan Burchard, who's incredible. So try working for 50 minutes and then take a 10-minute break. So what that will do is give you that 50 minutes of really super focused time on your work, and then take 10 minutes for that brain break, because our brains really do need it, especially if you're like me and sitting in front of a screen all day, or for like 4 hours a day, whatever it is. So take a walk, have a snack, get a drink of water, whatever it is, give your brain a break, move your body a little bit, close your eyes, give your eyes a break as well. And then last but not least, plan ahead. And this is where I certainly struggle, and I know a lot of entrepreneurs do. So give yourself extra time when you need it, including last minute meetings or last minute client needs. I know there are days when I get emails and I make the mistake of opening my inbox, and it's all these emergencies, right? And then I have a full workday, and then I look up and I think, I didn't accomplish the thing I needed to do because I was so busy doing all this stuff. So what I do now is I leave usually an hour of my total 4 hours to any sort of last minute emails, last minute projects, last minute things that have to get done, or meetings. And so I leave that time. And if it doesn't get filled, then it's my focus project work. So give that a try and see if that works for you. Focus on being productive instead of busy. So now we're going to we talked about time, but then productivity is a little bit different, right? Because time, everybody has the same amount of time. We all have 24 hours in a day, but we don't always use that 24 hours the same every day. We don't always none of us produce the same amount of work in a single day, right? So I love this quote from Tim Ferriss for that. And he's the author of the 4-Hour Work Week. So if you're interested in this mindfulness talk, I definitely recommend checking that out if you haven't read it yet. It's still very applicable even all these years later. So increase your productivity. Mindfulness can help with this too. Less time worked means nothing without more productivity, right? Just because we're working less, we should be producing at least as much, if not more, ideally. So how can mindfulness help with productivity and not just staying busy? I'm going to tell you this, and it's going to maybe blow your mind like it did for me. But with my schedule, it made me feel better, actually. On average, let me back up. This was a study done in the UK. And on average, from all the people that were part of this study, for an 8-hour workday, they were productive on average 2 hours and 53 minutes a day. So all that extra time out of that 8 hours was spent doing all sorts of other things I'm going to show you in a second. And countless studies have shown the same thing. So countries like Sweden, many companies there have actually moved to a 6-hour workday because people are this pretty much productive in the same way, and they get 2 extra hours that are their own now. And so they're much happier, right? Because they get 2 extra hours a day that are their own, and they're just as productive, if not more, because of it. So in my mind, as I kind of think through productivity and why we're not being more productive, I think, has a big part in the distractions. So on average, a part of the same study, on average, it might be a little bit different based on the current circumstances with remote work, but I would guarantee that actually these are going to be the same just with home life, because everybody's at home, right, and working out of their home offices. But on average, we're distracted every 3 minutes and 5 seconds. That's not in hours, that's minutes. 3 minutes, every 3 minutes and 5 seconds, you're distracted by something. It's an email ping or notification. It's a text message ping. It's a phone call. It's the doorbell ringing, it's the dog barking, it's the kid screaming. Every 3 minutes and 5 seconds, you're distracted. Then it takes an average of 23 minutes and 15 seconds to get refocused on your work. Isn't that incredible? So we're spending all this time getting distracted, refocusing, getting distracted, refocusing. When it just boggles, my mind is boggled by this. So what does that look like as far as distractions? Well, we already know this, right? And this is all part of the same study. We're people in the these, let me see. Yep. These are in minutes, by the way, over here on the left, the data. So we're reading the news, we're doing social media, obviously, we're water cooler talk, like talking to coworkers, that sort of a thing. We're looking for new jobs, super productive, right? Especially if you're working for someone else. Smoke breaks, personal calls, making a coffee or a tea, text messaging, instant messaging, snacking, making food. We're doing all these other things instead of work. Mind blowing. So, what can we do? So, for better productivity, I think these are all fantastic. I do want to say at this point, there are going to be some things that I did include that may go against other things I've said. And that's simply because we all work in different ways. And I think one way of thinking may work for one person and one may work for another person. So that's why I did include many, many different tips. So for better productivity, you can keep your to-do list short. I don't know about any of you, but I am well known for my extremely long to-do lists because I like to take everything out of my brain and put it down on paper. Because if it's in your brain, it's just swirling, right? So that is all well and good, but it doesn't look really good for productivity and sort of the science and psychology behind it. Because if you only get 3 things done on a 19 item list versus 3 things done on a 2-item list, that's going to feel much more rewarding to your brain than only getting 3 things done on a 19-item list, right? Because now you feel unproductive. You only got 3 things done today, as opposed to having only 2 priorities and actually getting 3 things done. So do what you can to try to keep that to-do list short. I know it's hard, but maybe you have 2 to-do lists. I do this. I have like my running list of just all the stuff in my brain. It's my brain dump. But then I have my focused to-do list. I never put more than 3 items on it per day. And those are my very focused things that I need to do. And so I know I'm going back and forth between like one thing you're focused on and up to, I wouldn't go over 3. So if 1 works for you, awesome. If 2 works for you, great. I wouldn't go over 3. 3 works for me. So just for what that's worth. Also, turn off distractions. I think this goes without saying, as we just saw, but we all need reminders, right? Turn off the phone, turn off the notifications. Oh my gosh, these notifications, right? They're crazy. Turn off the TV. Try to get away from other people if you can, and really try that focused 50-minute work, and then take your 10-minute break. 50 minutes on, 10 minutes off. Thirdly, stop doing those mindless activities. We did that in our first exercise, right? Stop doing the things that are just taking up your time, bogging you down. You know what they are. Start being mindful. Start paying attention to what they are. That was a big takeaway for me throughout this journey too, and hiring my VA, is starting to really notice where I was getting bogged down. Those moments where I'm just staring at my computer screen at that blank cursor. When are those moments, and can someone else do those? And then finally, take action. So this one I love. This is from Mel Robbins. If you haven't heard of her, I would definitely look her up. She's just incredible, especially in this space as far as productivity. She wrote a book called The 5-Second Rule, and she actually just had a new one come out like last week or the week before called The High Five Habit, which is also really cool. So Mel Robbins has this 5-second rule to get us to actually take action, because all this is for naught unless we're actually taking action, right? I mean, it can be great to turn off your distractions and have a short to-do list, but if we're not actually taking action and getting anything done, then we're not productive, right? So wasting less time letting our brain convince us otherwise is a huge benefit of mindfulness. So you can try this tip. So this is Mel Robbins, like I said, to simply say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and go. Whether it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and get out of bed, or 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, make that call to that client, or 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, start the project. There's a lot of science behind this, but basically giving yourself only a 5-second window doesn't allow your brain to become part of the conversation and say, oh, hold on, don't do this because you're no good. Don't do this because there's no reason to get out of bed today. Don't do that. All those ways that our brain talks us out of things. So definitely try that one. I love this one. Marie Forleo is one of my favorites. Intuition is like a muscle. The more you use it, the more strength you build. So true. So our final tip here is about intuition, self-awareness, and really alignment. So this is the last unbelievable benefit that mindfulness will bring to your life. And I think this really is a good culminating benefit, because what I think it does is really brings your business into your life. It really, by being more mindful in business and self-aware in business, it means that your body, your health, your energy, your joy, your life is more fulfilling, right? And that's what we all want. That's why we're all here, right? It was we want a more fulfilling, mindful, joyful life. So I will pause and say, even though I went back and forth on this, whether I should even mention it, if this feels a little woo-woo, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but I do think that it's a valuable part of the conversation. And I think that's why you're all here with me today. So becoming more self-aware, I think, looks like this. Doing more body scanning. And what I mean by that is, let's say it's 11:30 on a Thursday and you're typing away, working, and all of a sudden you're feeling sluggish and sort of out of sorts. Just doing a quick body scan, and by that I mean like starting at your head and just kind of like thinking about your body, like going down through, am I achy? Is there any weirdness going on in my body? Sometimes we get so hung up and so focused. I think you can probably think of a time where you were so focused on what you were doing that you forgot to eat, you forgot to sleep, you forgot to drink water. We get in those modes, right? So just by doing a quick body scan, you might say, oh, I'm getting really hungry for lunch. No wonder I'm getting sluggish. Just that quick little thing will help you be more mindful on an ongoing basis and make a habit out of it, so that you can sort of have this mind body connection, so that you're mindful as you work just all the time. Basically, it's sort of a rhythm, if you get my meaning. Um, Secondly, what I would invite you to try is to do a brain scan. What do I feel like doing today? Is basically what that looks like. And this sort of goes against having that focus, but I do think it's an important conversation for all the creatives in the room. And this has really helped me. So, has anyone ever had the experience where you have something looming, something, maybe it's a creative hit, or maybe it's a book you really want to read, or it's a beautiful day and you just want to get outside. Something is looming and you just cannot stop thinking about it. You're sitting and working, but there's just something that's kind of tapping on your shoulder, wanting you to do it. If that's you, I do invite you, as long, and I'm going to have a caveat on this, as long as there's no deadlines, you have the space and the time to do it. How about we just do it? We want to take a walk. We want to do something creative. We want to read a chapter of the book. Let's just do it, because 9 times out of 10, maybe even 10 times out of 10, I've noticed that if you just go ahead and do the thing that keeps sort of knocking at your brain, and you get that out of the way, then you can come back and focus on your work. So again, a little combative with what I talked about focusing, but for some people, I do think that really helps, and me included, especially if it's just something I really want to try. Yeah, so a couple other people are feeling the same way. And then last but not least, follow your gut. Really listen to your intuition, your deep intuition. We all have it, I promise you. And start to be more mindful on an everyday basis. So what that looks like is maybe saying no to the client that you might have said yes to before because you just knew it was not a good fit. I know we've all had that experience. Saying no to the event or the thing or the job, the anything that isn't a good fit. Let's all start listening to our intuition a little bit more, because I know that we've all had the experience of saying yes to something, or going ahead with something, or maybe saying no to something that we knew we should have said yes to. And later on, we're like, shouldn't have done that. I knew it, shouldn't have done that. So listen to that gut. It's there for a reason. So this goes back to that second point about the sort of brain scanning and thinking about what you feel like doing. In my mind, there's nothing worse than sitting and staring at a screen and just wishing you were doing something else, right? This is why we got into entrepreneurship in one way, shape, or form, is to be able to have the flexibility to do what we want when we want. And sometimes, again, when the space, time, and deadlines allow, sometimes there's room for that. And we can sort of check it off of our list. So why don't we? And again, if time and schedule allows, consider getting outside, moving your body, especially if you're feeling sluggish. The other reason I really like this too is because I notice when we force ourselves to do something, like you're forcing yourself to work. I did this just the other night, actually. I was up late working and I was just staring at this blank document and trying to type. And I realized after an hour, it's like midnight. And I'm like, why am I not going to bed? And I got maybe 5 minutes of work done in an hour. And then the next morning, I'm like, man, I did it again. I did not listen to my body. I did not go to bed. I should have just gone to bed. There's no need in, making myself supper and stay up when I should have just gone to bed. I know we've all had experiences like that. So listen to your body, whether it's moving, whether it's sleeping, whatever it is, eating. Work on that creative project. We all have that project that we want to do and don't have time for. And hopefully now you've come up with ways to make space for those projects so you do have the time and energy to devote to them. So what if we just pause, take 30 minutes out of our day and actually work on them? How would that feel? I think it would feel pretty good that you're making strides on it. And then follow your energy and intuition. How would it feel if you started listening to your intuition a little bit more? Even in business, it has a place, I promise you. And you started doing the thing that you've been wanting to do and following it a little bit more. So here are a couple of takeaways as far as intuition and self-awareness. First thing, eat that frog, tackle those creative or difficult, in this case, more creative things first thing in the morning, because there's something to having a fresh brain in the morning. And start with the most creative or the most difficult task first. Number two, pay attention to your energy. Obviously, we all tend to start off with more energy in the morning, but there's actually a lot of research around, like I tend to be a night owl, so I actually tend to do better work later in the day. And so maybe something like half of us are like that, where we actually tend to do better later in the day, and the other half are sort of early birds, and we tend to do better work in the morning. So pay attention to how your energy flows. And especially for women, pay attention to how your energy flows throughout the month, because there are definitely days when you're going to be more creative. There are days when you feel more tired. There are days when you feel more energetic. And those days are better for sales calls and presentations like this, maybe. And then lastly, do regular check-ins with yourself. I do truly, truly believe to my core that having that sort of mind-body connection, just like we would in fitness and athletics or and just in everyday life, will help you be a better business owner and entrepreneur, because you're giving your body what it needs at all times. And I think at the end of the day, I mean, our businesses come and go, but we're stuck in this body, right? Let's treat it well. And then you can give yourself exactly what you need in that moment. So I know that was a lot of tips, and I want to leave just a few minutes for Q&A. So we talked about focusing on what matters, increasing your impact and your free time and your productivity and your alignment. And I hope you came away with at least one thing today. And I would love to know what that one thing is. If you don't mind popping in the chat, I would love to hear about it. And I just want to say a big thank you to everyone for being here with me today. I so appreciate you. Please feel free to follow me for more goodies and marketing tips and all sorts of fun stuff at simplesprout.studio is my website. And I do have those freebies for you. Don't you worry. So I have two of them. So the first one is a mindful schedule. So this is my calendar blocking spreadsheet that I created. And it's what I use every single day. And basically, because I told you I have a 4-hour workday, so you can change this to whatever works for you. I time block all of my projects. I break them into 1-hour segments and I pop them in here. So at any given time, I know exactly what I'm doing for that day. And then I leave the last one that I don't know if you can see it from here, probably not. It's teeny tiny, bonus and meeting time. So that's all like bonus time or meetings or those emergencies that come up. And then more for the ladies in the room. I also have a moon energy calendar that I put together. So I actually overlap this with the the calendar blocking tool. So I know at any given time what times of the month are actually better based on moon energy and female cycle and all that good stuff. When is better to be creative? So I do a lot of writing during that time. I do a lot of sales calls during the time when there's high energy. I do more rest and like reading and research that I need to do during the low energy times. And I have to tell you, it has done wonders for my productivity. I'm not joking about this. It's amazing. So for either of those or both, you can go to nickiong.com/simple sprout/mindful. And then if you want to take I'll leave it a second for a screenshot. And then this is where you can grab the slides if you want to check those out. nickiong.com/WP/mindful-slides. And I will actually pop that one in the chat, because then you can get all the other links as well. So thank you guys so much for your time. I appreciate each and every one of you for being here, and thank you.
Yeah, firstly, I want to say thank you for giving of your nap time, free time to come share with all of us. As someone who has children, I know how valuable that time is, and for you to
Absolutely.
give that to everyone here to share all these things, really appreciate that.
Of course.
We do have a few questions. I just want to say one of the stats for me that popped out earlier on was when you were talking about how much time we spend thinking about a task versus doing a task. And 100%, I do that. I just sit there and kind of stare and think about it. And then when I finally do get around to doing it, it's just a fraction of the time that I spent thinking about it.
Every time.
Yeah, let's see, we have a couple of minutes for questions, so I will just jump right into the Q&A here. Ernest asks, how can we outsource without enough income? You talked about outsourcing the tasks that you don't find joy in, or that don't make enough to make it worthwhile for you. How do you do that without first having income to pay those people?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because you do need it, right? I mean, you do need to start getting at least a little bit of income, and then even just a little bit, as long as you can find someone who you can pay less an hour than you're making an hour, then you're good, right? Even if it's just $5, $10. My first assistants were actually, this is even better. My first assistants were college interns, and they actually interned for free for me, and they used it as college credit. And all I had to do was like sign a couple of forms. So you can actually go to like a local college or university and find the program that you specialize in. It may be marketing, it may be technology, whatever it is, and find someone who needs some interning experience. And then you can bump up from there to a paid internship. You're paying, and that's what I did next. I paid someone $10 an hour to help me. So you can slowly make those steps up.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great advice. I didn't even think about that.
I forgot about it until just now.
Let's see. Decision paralysis is very real. How do you decide which task to handle first when looking at a list of 5, 7, 10 tasks? I know you talked about just having a list of 3 at some point, but how do you, if you have a long list, how do you then even choose those 3? How do you go about deciding?
That's a good question. I mean, of course, there's deadlines, right? So I think that usually culls the list down as far as like, okay, which thing needs to get done first. More and more, I'm personally really trying to get better about which one do I not want to do the most. I think for a lot of us, that is the paralysis, right? Which one just keeps staying on that list week after week after week after week. Try to do that one first, I would say.
Nice. And then I think we're right about at time, but let me ask you, are there any timers or mindfulness tools that you might recommend, whether digital on the computer or something in your physical space or anything like that?
I don't use any personally. I use a time tracking for work. I use a program called Avaza. It's like any ClickUp or any sort of billing and task software. That usually keeps me pretty focused. And for me, it's really about the browser windows. Like I like to have music going on YouTube. I like to have all these things. For me, it's actually like less is more. But I'm not really someone that likes a lot of the mindfulness apps or anything like that, because it's sort of like one more thing, and I'm trying to
Mhm.
lessen the things.
Right.
So yeah, I would just use if you want a timer, I would use a simple one like on your phone, or you can Google like 5-minute timer. And sometimes that's helpful just to get started. This is a big one, is to, sorry, I got distracted because somebody said the link I did wasn't clickable. I'll post it again in just a moment. Like taking just 5 minutes and getting started on the thing that you don't want to do can, you'll look up at the timer and it'll be like 10, 15 minutes have gone by, and you'll be like, oh, this wasn't so bad. Okay, this is great.
Nice.
Let me
Yeah,
drop
it looks
that
like
link
you
again.
shared one of the links, but maybe if you could toss the other one in. And if you
Okay,
don't mind, I think we're at
that
time,
one
so I'm going
go?
to wrap us up. But if
Yeah.
you would share in the chat as well how people can maybe reach out to you afterwards as well
Yeah,
on social media or
absolutely.
whatever while I wrap us up. Yeah, so thank you everybody for joining us today. We do have a couple of events coming up next week that I just wanted to quickly shout out here as well. If you're a WordPress developer or interested in WordPress development, specifically around Gutenberg and the block editor, we do have a panel demo on Tuesday, next Tuesday, the 16th at 11 a.m. Eastern, with a couple of folks from the WordPress community that will be talking about keeping your testing the latest features in Gutenberg with the Git Updater plugin. And then we'll be right back here again next Wednesday to talk more mindfulness. We'll actually have a little bit of a different session. It's going to be a group discussion with some other folks in the WordPress community, and we will have that event up on the site here shortly for folks to register for. That's next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, just like today's. Thanks again, Nicki, for coming on and hanging out and sharing all
Absolutely.
those tidbits. And hopefully
My
you can
pleasure.
have a moment to rest before nap time is over.
Looks like it's still going, so we're good.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone that hung out with us in the chat. And we will see you next time. Thanks.
Thank you, guys.